I'm Brittany Carter. I'm excited to be here today and talk about power in the customer experience. So, I'm a research analyst in King County, which, for those who aren't aware, King County is the county that houses Seattle, Washington, Bellevue, Redmond, those familiar cities. Um, so, I work as a research analyst. I'm on the performance and strategy team, and I work very closely with the director of customer service. And today we're going to be talking about how we used Microsoft Dynamics and Power BI and the Power Platform to really build a technology foundation for customer experience, or CX. And so today I'll give an overview of King County and our customer experience goals, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how I worked to build a customer experience operating system with technology truly at the heart of it all. So just a little background for context for those who aren't familiar with King County. It's the 14th largest county in the country. It's bigger than two states, so about 2,100 square miles. The median household income is about 89,000 and about 56% home ownership rate. The county operates on a roughly 11.7 billion 2-year budget cycle with 2.25 million residents in 39 cities. So we are a huge county, and we have the community is amazing. And so kind of the structure is that is we have 9 county council members. We also have a separately elected assessor, sheriff, prosecutor, elections director, and then we also have a county executive, Dow Constantine, and that's whose office I operate out of. And so Dow has a vision and a prioritization to become the best run government in the nation and really create a community where everyone can thrive. And so within that, we have certain priorities that we look at. And I work with the service priority. And what that means is being able to provide easy, equitable, efficient, and courteous services. And so I worked with the director of customer service to really develop some strategic goals around how do we approach customer experience as a county. And with that, we came up with 2 objectives that we wanted to work towards within the biennium. And that's to adopt and consistently use a standard methodology to measure CX so that all departments are measuring in similar ways. And then not only to just data is great, but action is better. So how do we routinely apply that CX data to really better direct operations and policy decision making? Now, the challenge that we were facing when we do this is how do we bring leaders and employees into delivering this level of service and approaching it as standard work. So just approaching it as the way that we do business. And so really it became then a connection to an operating system. So really our customer experience operating system is this designing and measuring and reacting to customer interactions to meet or exceed their expectations. And when you design a CX system really well, then it really truly personalizes experiences at each touch point. And that's really important in the public sector. There's nowhere else for folks to go. You can't need a permit in King County and, I'm not great with their service, so I'm going to go over to another county. That's not how it works. So it's really important for us to really tailor those experiences. As we began to build this system, I immediately was like, we need a technology solution. We need something that is going to integrate all of our customer systems, that can talk to each other, that empowers leaders and employees to act, and that really makes data actionable, right? Data alone is great when you can visualize it in a way that encourages all levels within our organization to be actionable about it. Then you're really working you're cooking with grease, as my grandma would say. So in the beginning, or as we were developing this program, I really was focusing on a technology solution that would bring everything together seamlessly, something that I could control and work with, because this customer experience was new to the county, and in my position even was new to the county. And so I knew that often the fastest way to get something done is to do it yourself, right? So we have an excellent IT department, and they are flooded. So I wanted to find something that worked quickly. So this was at the end of 2019. We're on the hunt for a technology solution, and then COVID happens. So we are the first state in the nation with the first COVID-19 case. And really now, at that point, prioritization of CX and voice of the customer was critical. We needed to understand what our residents needed, and we needed to be able to respond. And we needed a technology solution that we could use immediately. So it really became a prioritization for me of what do we have, what's available, and what's accessible to everyone in the organization so that we can collect this data, collect this information, and use it, making it actionable again. And so we have been using Microsoft, we are a Microsoft entity. We've been using the Microsoft Dynamics system for about 10 years now for our customer relationship management, or CRM, as you'll hear me say, for about 10 years now. And so the CRM system really is an issue management. So let's say somebody has a question about a permit, then they write into the county, the CRM, Microsoft Dynamics captures that information. Our customer service managers can read it and respond and help those customers. So we've been using that system for quite some time, and departments had access to it. When I came on, we started using Power BI to visualize that data. And so I built a report to be able to show the volume, the number of resolutions that we were having, the median time to close those resolutions. So really making that whole system, taking that data and making it actionable. And so we'll talk in detail about that today. But when I was putting together this, figuring out this technology solution and turning to Microsoft for this resource, what ended up happening in order to make data actionable, we created two different reports. So I created a customer experience measurement report within Power BI, and then we created a customer experience operating management system within Power BI. And so the measurement looks at customer voice, overall satisfaction, overall trust, and the management system looks at issue resolution, the volume, setting those enterprise metrics. So we're going to start off talking about the customer experience measurement. That's my baby, and that's where the bulk of this work really came from beginning to where we are now, and talk about the process that I use in working with agencies to make their data actionable. So I can't express my gratitude enough for the Microsoft Power Platform. It makes my job so much easier. I am not at all I'm an analyst, I'm not a programmer, right? So I don't have that technical expertise. I didn't go to school for back-end coding. I just knew that I needed some way to personalize this customer experience program for every department that I was working with, so that when we sent out a survey to the customer, it was relevant, it provided us great information, and we were able to act on it. And so what I was able to do through these Power Platforms is create individual teams with the individual agencies that we're working with, and build a SharePoint site as well. And through this method, through the standard method for customer experience, we walk through a couple of various points with the agencies. And so there's a lot of communication going back and forth, and email was great, but it just didn't feel like I could reach them and they could reach me, them as in the employees, quickly to move this work forward. Teams allowed us to bring everything into one place, a centralized place, where I can say, okay, hey, here's your collection method, take a look at that. And when I created the research method, I was able to take a video using Stream of me going over the research methodology and then send that to them. So the next time we met, it wasn't about orienting into what we're doing. It was more about getting into the nitty-gritty heart of the work. When we were able to formalize that collection method, then we're able to go into forms, set up the survey, and then be able to, in real time, look at the survey responses coming in through Power BI. So that's where we're at now, and that's what we're building. That's not where we always were. And so I think, so I'm going to show you here the result of using Power BI to visualize the survey data. And it's super important to be able to show this information in a way that's meaningful to change makers. So this is the Power BI report here that we use to be able to show the results of our customer surveys and what our customers are saying and bring in the voice of the customer. It really empowers decision makers and change makers to get the data and make it actionable in a way that a conversation or a paper piece or a white paper might not really hit them as hard with an emotional attachment. To be able to visualize data really helps leaders to be able to feel the impact of their customers. And so with this report, we're able to truly get at the heart of that. So here we have this Power BI report, and originally, and I chose this one in particular because when I had originally started working with Power BI and sending out customer surveys, I wasn't using Microsoft Forms. So I wasn't setting up my surveys in Microsoft Forms. I've since learned, and now we use Forms, but I think that's an important piece because when you're starting out, in anything really, but even when you're starting out in the Power Platforms, you start with what you have and what you know. You just get started. And so I just got started and I knew that I had Power BI to visualize the data. And so we'll get into the data a little bit here, because what I was able to do with this information prior to visualizing it such as this is the actual Power BI report prior to publication. So as I mentioned, I had used another platform to collect the data, and Power BI was great because I just popped all of that information into an Excel spreadsheet and then asked Power BI to bring it in and set up the information there. When I had initially started this, so this is the data that you're seeing here on the back end of Power BI. It's just a regular old Excel spreadsheet, nothing super fantastic there, really easy to pull in. But when I had started, building these reports, I didn't know anything. I didn't really know how to operate Power BI. I knew that it was a great tool for the end user, and then getting it there, I was a little bit concerned because I didn't know how to start, but it makes it really easy. I was able to use these fields over here and really just kind of drag and drop and choose a visualization that I thought looked cool. So even with things such as the map, I knew Power BI was able to recognize that there was a zip code attached, a geographical zip code. And then when I placed it on a map, it just automatically mapped it out for me. So I'm able to see where these survey respondents are coming from, which is really important when we're looking at the data to be able to understand, who is responding and who is not responding as well. So being able to visualize all of this information is really critical to get in the hands of change makers. And I'll show you why here particularly, because when we sent this survey out, this is a vehicle vessel licensing survey. And so what this means is that people that had to renew their car registration or renew their boat license, they used to have the opportunity to come into the county office and just do it there. When COVID happened, we had to close our doors for safety measures, and we weren't able to offer that service in person anymore. And so what we need to figure out is those folks that did come in person, what are they doing? Where are they going? How are we serving them? Are we serving them well? Along with everyone else too. I could talk to leaders, and I could talk to decision makers probably till I'm blue in the face about this information and this data. But for them to see it on their own is a completely different feeling, right? So what we're able to see here is that in 2019, 13% of these respondents had renewed in person. If I click that in person box, we can also see that if they renewed in person last year and then renewed online this year, we had asked them how difficult was that transition. And what you can see is that roughly 73% of folks found it easier to go online. But what's also cool about this is that their preference didn't change much. And so if somebody is eager to use their online resource, then they're going to be eager to prefer the online method. So the ability, the power in this visualization tells leaders that it might be easier, but it doesn't mean that that's the means that they would like to do. When I showed this to change makers, they immediately said, we need to connect with the state and we need to talk about that partnership and what we can do. Without being able to visualize this in Power BI, then it would have been a little bit of a longer conversation about what needs to be done, right? The data doesn't lie here, and you can truly see what's happening in these areas with these customers. And so it's just really important here as we're building these reports to highlight how easy it was and how I literally just would drag and drop different fields into the report and play with the visualization. If I click on this chart here, you can see that Power BI highlights for me the areas that I had dragged and dropped. I can play with the values. I can have it be a count. I can have it be a percentage. You can just do a bunch of different things with it. So it's just really valuable information to be able to see and to gather what's helpful for customers here. I had mentioned earlier as well that we do use a customer relationship management system. And so I'll show you that here. So we have a customer, like I said, we use Microsoft Dynamics as our customer relationship management platform. And so this Power BI report is built based on the information that we're getting from that system. And I integrated it, or myself and colleagues had integrated this system using an API from Microsoft Dynamics. And an API really is a linkage. It helps the different softwares talk to each other. So we used an API and said, hey, Microsoft Dynamics, I want you to pull this specific information from this specific area in Dynamics, and I want you to push it to Power BI, and I want you to continue to update it in real time. And so what's happening here is that we're able to see the impact of the issues coming in and the customer complaints or comments or whatever their requests for help. We're able to see that in real time. Again, we want to talk about the power of visualization here. As you can see, these are the number of issues by each department within the county, and you can see this lovely spike here. So during COVID, we knew that that our Department of Public Health was getting flooded with more questions from our residents, rightfully so. But to be able to show leaders this kind of spike made it easier for them to understand the magnitude, right? So now I'm able to communicate that last year, Department of Public Health had 8.5% of the cases. This year, they have 35% of the cases. Now we can talk about what kind of resources they need. We can talk about the folks that are answering these calls. Do they need, additional employees? Do we need to move some folks around so that they can help? What needs to happen? And so that's a quick story right there to be able to visualize that. And again, all of this data is being fed from the Microsoft Dynamics, and we're able to really make some really cool decisions and empower folks. I did not have, I'm not a programmer, right? I did not have any type of background in IT, in software development. I didn't really even know much about how to truly visualize data in a way that, really empowered decision makers. I had done that in previous positions, and I was definitely growing in that capacity. And Power BI made it so easy to just kind of drag and drop so that we could get that information into the hands of decision makers. And so my favorite quote is that the first step in exceeding your customers' expectations is to know those expectations, right? Technology, specifically the Power Platform, had led the way in responsive customer data for King County and being able to be responsive to our community and our customers. And I'm just one person in this organization, in this 15,000 employee organization. And I don't, as I mentioned, I don't have a tech background. And so being able to set my CX, my customer experience core teams up in Power, in Teams, and to help them walk through the process of setting up a survey so that they can send it out in forms, and then that information can be sent to Power BI, would have seemed very daunting in the beginning, but it's so incredibly easy now. And now we're at the place where I've been able to take the survey from forms and set up a flow so that we can visualize that data in Power BI in real time. And so it just really accentuates how important technology has played in this. But for me, it has accentuated that I don't need to have a fancy title to do good work. I just have to have the drive to figure it out. And the Power Platform has been really helpful in making that easier for me so that I can do the work that I really want to do, which is to create, positive resident experiences for King County. So here is my information. And I love to connect with you all. I'll get in the chat here in a minute. But I just really think it's important here to highlight that, change just begins with a decision. You don't have to have all of the power and all of the authority to make change. It just begins with a decision. And that decision for me was to learn more about the Power Platform and the resources that we have, and how do we make that available, and how do we make that available to employees at all levels who are the real change makers in this work. So thank you all. I appreciate being here today. If you want to connect, I'd be happy to, and I'm excited to continue to watch these presentations. Have a great evening.